So, hi, my name's Megan.
And my name's Monica.
And we're going to talk more about, if you've seen a recent video that I made about this eco-centric human development model put out by Bill Plotkin. And we just watched a movie together called Barefoot. The script was actually written by someone who lives here in our town of Chico, California.
And works at a car dealership.
And so we're in a car right now. And we're gonna, Monica asked me if we could have a conversation about how the movie relates to this idea of this human development model. Where do you want to start?
Well, one thing I want to talk about, do you want to give your little synopsis of the movie so people know?
Yeah. So the movie is basically about a guy and a girl. The guy ends up working as a janitor at a psychiatric hospital and kind of semi-breaking out / being followed by someone who's committed to the psychiatric hospital, and he takes her to his brother's wedding as his girlfriend to kind of impress his family. And hilarity and chaos ensues.
And sweetness. Oh,
yeah.
It's so sweet. So what I noticed about the film, and a kind of a theme I've been exploring myself, is that I think that there are a lot of different mechanisms just within us to bring us back to this, the theory that is being captured by this author, Plotkin, right?
Yeah, Bill Plotkin.
Bill Plotkin. And I think his model is capturing something that a lot of different people are capturing as well, that it's a universal model, and there's different ways of talking about it. But specifically within the film, what I noticed is patterns in my own life and things that have brought me back to a more sane way of being in this world. I think there are patterns. So, for example, the character in the film, what's her name? She's played by Evan Rachel Wood.
Her name's Daisy, the character.
Oh, great. Okay, so Daisy is in the psych ward, and noticing. So we have in our culture, a lot of people will have their first onset of like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder or major depression in that age period of young adult to adult, like college age, 20, 21, 22. A lot of people have their first experience. And so one question I want to ask...
And like, just to clarify by that, you mean some kind of like symptom of neurosis, or like what some people might consider like psychological disorder.
Yeah. The first manifestation. Not that people can't have it later or earlier, but it's a really common period for it to happen. And so, like, one thing that really came up for me is I'd love to have a discussion with the author of that screenplay. So I wonder if, in the film, the woman definitely has anxiety that comes up, and she has these panic attacks. And what I'm noticing and what I'm thinking is that we are programmed to really yearn for a life-affirming existence, a life-affirming culture, and perhaps those instances of what we would call a crisis are really actually evolutionary, normative patterns to give us a chance to seek a culture and seek a way that is much more loving and affirming. So in the film, where are we on time here? Oh, great. We're just starting. In the film, this young woman's coming from a home where, spoiler alert, you can stop here if you're going to watch the film. You don't want it to be ruined for you.
And then go watch it and then come back.
And then comment and let us know what you think, where it sounds, in the end, it's revealed that her mother had schizophrenia, and that her mother was hearing voices, and her mother was also very isolated. And I noticed in the film that Daisy's pattern of following the other character, Jay, is it Jay?
I think
the
Jason,
man?
Jay.
Yeah. That her experience with him is this new, deeper form of a form of love that's much more based, I think, in the nature-centered society
than she had with her mom.
Mm-hmm. Her mom was her only experience of love, and so she thought she had to do certain things and fulfill a certain role. But then when she meets Jay, he tells her that love just is, and you just give love and receive it just because you want to.
Not because you earn it.
Mm-hmm. And so, in my own experience, in my own relationships, I noticed that people that tend to cope really well with some kind of experience in their early adulthood tend to be ones who take the opportunity to notice or to listen to their own body and to listen to their own intuition and to choose a new way of being that affirms their own life force and is loving and trusting and held in community. So
yeah. Can I respond to that?
I would love for you to.
So how I'm relating it to this model is like this stage called the wander in the cocoon, which is late adolescence. The model has 2 stages for each sort of part of life, 2 for childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and elderhood. And like what you said about people experience the first onset of psychotic or neurotic symptoms during that time period. In this model, it would be seen as that is a call to leave behind the adolescent personality and explore who we are at a deeper level. And I've been reading this book for a program in ecotherapy, ECO, not ego. A lot of people mishear it. It's easy to get confused about that. But so ecotherapy offers some pretty big alternatives to sort of where psychotherapy is right now, which often is about helping people adapt to the culture as it is and doesn't acknowledge that the possibility of a culture that's just insane. It's about adapting, and a lot of insurance only covers mental health services to the extent that it just helps someone get back to work. I've heard the phrase medicate and motivate.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about adaptation and being well adjusted. And so some of these symptoms might not be individual neuroses. Some of them might be, but some of the symptoms that people are showing that are considered crazy or are listed in the DSM whatever.
Yeah, and I always like to put crazy like right here because everybody's definition and perspective, the language we put on different experiences really matters.
Yeah, that actually might be signs that they're in an insane culture. Someone who's labeled crazy might be the sane person, and those neuroses or whatever might be their soul calling them to go deep into themselves and start doing the work of late adolescence, which is like a cocoon. It's a transformative stage, and to do tasks like exploring their sacred wound, their primary wounding that they experienced in childhood, which everyone has in some form or another, is the premise of this model.
Mm-hmm.
And to start reclaiming parts of themselves that they've rejected because they needed to for psychological survival in their family, and to do other tasks. Basically trying to retrieve images of their soul, which is defined pretty differently than most religions define it. It's like your unique place in the world and your purpose, the gifts that you bring. And through doing that kind of work, also dream work, guided imagery, trance and journey work, that kind of thing, is a way to respond to those psychotic symptoms. It's a call inward. And so psychotherapy can actually be oppositional to soul work, because it can pull you back out as you're trying to go into the depths of your psyche. It pulls you back up on the surface so that you can adjust.
And I'm sorry, that's just making me excited to share, because we want to keep this brief so that you'll actually feel engaged, and then you can go and have your own reflections. Anyway, that in a beautiful way, Daisy is figuring out a way to move through, and I'm still learning the language, to move through these phases to get through adolescence, just like Jay is, because Jay is caught in this place of debt and of risk-taking, and he's the black sheep from his family, and he's in probation and things. They find each other, and the sweet love and life-affirming connection allows them both to move through, to ground and say, yeah, I'm valid in this world. I'm not fitting into the norms of the job and the success, and I have love to bring, and it feels good to be alive.
Mm-hmm.
That was really sweet for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think another thing that might be relevant to the movie is the idea that even though you might be at a later stage in life, you can always have unfinished business from previous stages, and you can work on that. And that's kind of what we saw in the movie, is that Daisy's mother, because when you're a child, your parents are responsible to a large extent for your development, for providing an environment in which you can develop in a healthy way, psychologically. And she didn't get that, but you can kind of go back and complete those tasks at a later time, including with help from others.
And doing that, I think Daisy's presence and sweetness and Jay's and Daisy's connection is also allowing Jay's parents to heal, that they offered unconditional love and they bailed him out. And it can be healing. Whenever anyone starts doing that, it starts healing, it starts connecting and bringing more love in all places. And because I can't avoid talking about it, just noticing, like, culturally, that for a white man to be bailed out of jail is, like, totally typical. And noticing that a lot of the service roles in the film, all the people in the service, like the people mopping things, just noticing, I appreciate the way race was represented in terms of, like, accurately reflecting that most people in service roles tend to be people of color. And I also want to notice that, like, the happy ending at the end does come in part because it comes in a large way.
Because of the privilege of his family having money.
Because they're white and they're from Louisiana and big, like, you can tell, like, some coming from big money, and that for the vast majority of poor people of color, that experience would play out very differently.
Yeah, thanks for acknowledging that. And I think I'm happy to always acknowledge that most of the media we get, the movies that are turned out are about people with privilege, and that's, who we talk about on screen. So I think it's good to acknowledge that's not everyone's experience. All right, well,
that was fun.
Thanks for joining us.